Every society has its rules of behavior, codes of conduct that allow people to coexist. When individuals break those rules, they may find themselves shunned.
Oh my God, you fat cunt!
In Berwick-upon-Tweed, a father's constant cursing makes him an outcast.
Wanker. Signed your life away, Satan.
In Idaho, a young woman is stigmatized by self-harm.
This is where I come to do my pulling. I don't like to pull in public or around other people.
In Kent, a man who can't help falling asleep is judged lazy.
I didn't make friends. I was really an outcast.
And in Vermont, two friends find ways to express their feelings to the world. Each has a condition they can't control, yet they are constantly judged by the society in which they live, because to many, their behavior is strange. In this family home on the Scottish border, it's breakfast time.
You still tired? Yeah? You wanted some juice as well, Bobby? Okay, good.
With 4 children under 6, Paul Stevenson and his wife Carol have a busy morning. But this is no ordinary family.
Different breakfast. What sort? Sugar. Wank. This is sweet. Tommy Tucker, the little... Jellyfish sex. I'm a princess, you know. Bike. Come on, who said that?
Paul Stevenson lives in Berwick-upon-Tweed. In many ways, he's like any other father.
Hey, I won a race. You did you?
Paul's problems began in childhood.
Doctors back then say, oh, you know, it's his little habit, and, you know, dismiss a tic as something in my personality.
At the age of 45, his tics worsened.
I started to notice it when my friend Bill passed away. When we were in the crematorium, I'd noticed a leg movement, and my leg kept lifting up. Hey, good God! And I couldn't stop it. Oh, get it, heavy. I'd been seeing doctors, and they could never understand what was wrong with me. Hey, this is gay? Oh my God.
Then one night, Paul and Carol saw a documentary about Tourette's syndrome.
We noticed repetitive things I kept doing were very similar to what they had been doing. And Carol's turned around to me and said, listen, I think you might have Tourette's. Looking back, the doctors think that I've had Tourette's all my life, just not displayed many tics. But as to why it's come out and it's come so severe, they don't know.
Tourette's is clearly a biological disorder. There are clearly abnormalities in certain parts of the brain, particularly the frontal lobe, and it's believed that there's a dysfunction in that part of the brain where people can't inhibit behaviors or thoughts or even vocalizations.
In the last few years, Paul's physical and verbal tics have become so severe he can't work.
Oh my word. I'm so gay. Hey, we keep quite a bit outside, bastards. Hey!
There's not many places where people will socially accept someone that have got vocal tics like Paul's. And then the motor tics, he could quite easily knock something over, break something or drop something.
Relentless tics have put Paul's 13-year marriage under pressure.
I really rely on Carol a right lot because she's my rock. And I know she's got a really hard job because sometimes my tics are incessant, you know, negative tics towards her. And I can't stop them, I can't change them. Bye. One day I kept saying whore, whore, whore. Look, what?
I take it personally sometimes, but I have to tell myself it's not real, you know, it's just a tick.
Madness! The guy's insane! Hey!
A tic is defined as having an urge to do something, a repetitive action, that can be suppressed, at least for a short period of time, but eventually has to be completed for a feeling of relief.
Paul doesn't just tick around Carol, he constantly ticks around their children.
I despair sometimes because I'll be saying things and I'm thinking, it's not right.
I love my kids. Kellogg's cornflakes. Bollocks.
Paul has become virtually housebound.
I get very anxious about leaving the house.
A simple trip to the supermarket is a major ordeal.
You're fit. Wank. Hey! Fishy funny.
Knowing that many find it difficult to deal with his behaviour makes Paul feel vulnerable.
I need some nappies. Hey!
Like an outsider, an outcast.
People often treat Tourette's behavior as taboo, I think because it seems mentally ill. They think the person is doing that because they're crazy.
Hey! Sign your life away, Satan.
Or maybe the person is violent, maybe they're going to hurt them. About 10% of people with Tourette's have a symptom of Tourette's called coprolalia, which is a sort of involuntary swearing or cursing. The thing that seems most antisocial to people is the swearing and rude gestures. The loudness of the tic may seem directed to specifically antagonize people.
Usually when I'm walking along and I see a man and his wife, my tick will go, homo. And it's not a nice thing to say to somebody. I've had people say to me, do I look gay? Homo.
French!
If someone's overweight, sometimes I'll go gastric band. Now, I wouldn't want to say anything like that to anybody. I don't want to offend anybody or upset anybody.
As the price.
As to why it's inappropriate, why that's what comes out, I don't know. I get distressed when I'm out if I say something that's derogatory to somebody.
Wanker.
It's a social disability, and it's only in and around people that, hey, hallelujah, that it seems to accelerate and gets worse.
Well, I think Tourette's sufferers are marginalized, not because the behaviors are necessarily antisocial, but they're perceived as antisocial.
Do you know I'm gay?
Tourette's is definitely misunderstood by the public, and if people do understand it, they realize that they don't mean to hurt people, they don't mean to be offensive, and that essentially it's uncontrollable.
Cheers, thanks a lot, thanks for your patience. Hey!
Tourette's is as hard for Paul's family as it is for him.
His life is restricted. We can't always do things with the children that we'd like to do. Sometimes I have to go off on my own and do it, and I'd much rather we did it as a family, you know.
Wank!
The disorder can tear families apart.
Okay, there you go, there's your prescription. Poorly.
So Paul's taking action with some friends he met at a Tourette's support group.
Off.
Together with Stuart Cahoon and John Davidson, Paul has set up a charity called Tourette's Lifelong Care, or TLC.
Ken this guy called Ken, because he's a Kenny Ken.
Right, so it's cottage.
They're fighting back.
Oh my God, you fat now!
The men are travelling to Arisaig, over 240 miles away on the west coast of Scotland, to look for a sanctuary for Tourette's sufferers and their families.
Will driving to rescue!
John and Stu are really important to me. First time I met him, I was really, really nervous.
We're coming up this road here to A82.
Yeah, so that's open over this way.
Right.
Glass blowing bastards!
But when John and Stu started ticking to me, I'm like, hey, I'm not fat, hey, I'm not bald. Hey, who are you calling stupid? And it was good for me because it gave me a view to see myself as other people do. I feel like I've got a new family.
Paul's friend John has high hopes for the trip.
What we're hoping to get out of this trip is to find somewhere for people with Tourette's syndrome to come and enjoy a holiday and not feel, threatened by people staring and, making horrible comments. We've got just as much right to go on holiday as anyone else.
En route, they pick up supplies for a planned fishing trip.
Welcome to the pleasure dome. Touch me penis, it's great.
There's a fat guy.
One tick can trigger many.
We bounce off each other.
I think you sold it.
Sorry, mate.
Alright, okay. We've got guns. Armed robbery. Awful smell of piss in here. It's me. It's the best shop in Scotland. That's on the wheel of you, maniac.
They could take medication, but choose not to because it saps their energy.
Tough titted.
The most effective medicine for Tourette's is something that blocks dopamine. And that's exactly why people don't want to take it, because it blocks all their motivation. They may be sleepier, more passive.
They reach the campsite. They've chosen this spot because the owner's daughter has Tourette's.
Hi, nice to meet you, Paul. Well,
We
I
can
want to
come
show
in.
you the holiday houses, maybe on Saturday morning
Yeah.
when I'm cleaning them,
Right.
and see what it'd be like for bringing
Families and-
kids and
yes,
families. 'cause-
definitely.
It's finding somewhere where you can be accepted and the children aren't going to be judged and
Absolutely. Well,
Judged.
here, everybody is. Why
Can we walk off a cliff?
Cliff who?
Richards! You're like two kids in a tea shop!
Hey! Oh! I can see for miles!
I think double entendres, Francis Saunders.
Stop! You'll never ever...
It's got me!
I want to find a crab.
You've got him in your pants, you. Do you know that I was once French?
Living with Tourette's is a constant challenge and sometimes brings danger.
Leaving the flat one night, there was two kind of guys that I knew one of them to talk to, and as I approached them, the big guy stepped forward and says, every time my girlfriend goes past, she hears you shouting and swearing at her. And I'm saying, oh, come on, you know the score, I've got Tourette's. He started beating me up with a crowbar. I was hit with the head 3 times with a crowbar.
The inaugural Tourette's Lifelong Care Board meeting is a torrid affair.
Shut up! Hey! Off you, homo! Hey! Hey! Oh, hey! Hey! Hey!
Take a breath, take a breath.
Hey! 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 What a f***ing racket, I know. Hey! Hey!
there's an element of lack of control that once they've started and it becomes incessant, the more frustrated I become. I'm fully aware of what I'm doing, but I haven't got the ability to stop them.
It's their last day at Arisaig.
Good morning, Vietnam!
They decide this spot is more Tourette's friendly than others they've been to.
Remember the camps that we were on up at Taylor?
Don't have to move a caravan, put the site off the site.
Other people on the site had complained to the management about us chicken and...
What I like about it is that we've been made to feel welcome.
That's right, yeah. Makes a huge difference.
Makes a huge difference.
Bollocks! Can I have my breakfast gone?
Paul's friendship with John and Stuart makes Tourette's bearable.
But it's called camaraderie. We've all got the same goals for the future, and a lot of it is with helping other people.
The future looks good for the Tourette's Lifelong Care charity. As the men head home, they're optimistic they can make a difference.
This morning I woke up and I thought, yeah, that'll be good. If we can sort something out where we can take kids and families with Tourette's, they're going to come away and the batteries are going to be charged and they're going to be ready to face the world, back to school. And, you know, being around people who've got Tourette's gives me a sense of belonging. I've been given an identity because I've never really known who Paul Stevenson was, never understood myself, never been understood by other people. I'm Paul Stevenson who's got Tourette's syndrome.
That's me dad!
Like many teenagers, 17-year-old Bethany Scheidemann is anxious to look her best.
It takes me an hour to get ready because I have to choose my hats and I have to coordinate my outfits and all that fun stuff. I wanted to go into modeling for a while.
But Bethany's dreams of modeling have hit a snag.
It feels like my hands have a mind of their own. If this hand is not doing something, then it'll reach up to my head and it'll start playing with my hair. It's like I have 3 or 4 different people in my mind going, no, 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 or yes, yes, yes. And sometimes that just stresses me out enough to where I give in.
The beautiful young aspiring model is making herself bald.
I have trichotillomania, which is a hair pulling condition. When I have an urge to pull, I have this tingling feeling on my scalp. And I feel like if I don't pull from that area, it won't go away. This is where I come to do my pulling. I don't like to pull in public or around other people. When I pull, I will run my hands through my hair, and then I'll twist, and I'll pull it, and I'll bite the root, and I'll toss it. There isn't any actual pain when I pull. It's more of a release of goodness. It's like a pleasure, it's like a massage. It's like taking a deep breath, and you have that sense of relaxation. You pull and pull and pull for maybe an hour or so, and you feel really guilty afterwards.
To most of us, hair pulling to the point of baldness seems strange and unnatural. Many would view it simply as self-destructive, self-mutilation.
People can perceive it as frightening, possibly as threatening. They don't know what it is. Is this something that's contagious? Some people view it as being self-punitive or self-injurious, but it's not always the case.
I think that it's a disorder of shame and isolation, and there's a great deal of stigma attached to things that affect the person's appearance. People with trichotillomania tend to avoid many situations that involve any kind of close contact socially, and other things such as haircuts.
I don't like hairdressers touching my hair because I'm afraid they'll be like, oh, what have you done to your hair? It's nerve-wracking.
Bethany lives in constant fear of being found out.
I avoid swimming and horseplay a lot because I'm afraid, oh, my hat will fall off or someone will notice. Making friends does get a little hard because you have to worry about, oh, how are they going to react to this? Are they going to be ignorant about it and be rude, or are they going to be understanding?
Her mother, Shauna, worries for her.
I think the Tourette's really limits her in some ways. time you should take a little snack with you just in case. You know, she can't just let herself go and have fun. She has to think about who's going to be there. Do they know that I have this syndrome? And if they don't, okay, I have to wear a cap.
Like many young girls, Bethany started pulling her hair out around puberty.
I first started pulling when I was around 12 or 13. I had been homeschooled, and then I was switched into public school for a while, and I didn't really have any friends, and I was kind of alone.
Bethany's always been a little different from our other kids. When she was younger, she would play quietly in her room instead of seeking out people to play with. And as she got older, that became more prominent.
Well, young women have a lot of problems with pulling. We have some reasons to think that some of the hormonal changes may be related to urges to pull, but it's also a period where there's a lot of peer pressure around their physical appearance.
Bethany makes her own hats and scarves to disguise her bald spot.
Sometimes I get really sad, like, oh, I don't feel pretty. I do a lot of crafts because it keeps my hands busy. It kind of keeps your mind away from pulling.
She wants to go on to study art in the future. She has submitted some of her work to an arts competition in the Western Idaho Fair.
Bethany's art and the Tourettes are very interrelated because when she is drawing and when she's creating, it's not as bad. But if she stops, then it worsens.
Those with trichotillomania can become isolated to the point of reclusion.
When my twitch is really bad, I don't like to touch people. I like to wash my hands a lot. I don't like being touched. And I usually like to sleep all day and just be alone a lot. Sometimes I get really stressed out about school or friends, and I get just the urge to pull, and I feel like if I don't, then I'll have a mental breakdown.
I've talked to her about, what can I do to help you? And she just shrugs her shoulders, I don't know. And, dang it, sorry. I just want her to be really happy. She's a smart kid, and I don't want anything to hold her back.
Although there's no cure for trichotillomania, it can be treated with a combination of psychotherapy and medication. For now, arts and crafts are Bethany's therapy. It's judging day at the Fine Arts competition.
Today I'm off to the fair, and I'm hoping that I won because it's my first competition.
Bethany's family joins her for support. The judges have made their decision, and they're eager to see how she's done. Bethany has won first prize.
It's a different confident boots.
I think this is really important for her to have won this. It might encourage her to stick with it even if she's struggling with the hair pulling.
Yeah, I think I'm just gonna go have fun now. I want to go to college for art and hopefully move on to become a graphic designer or a fashion designer. That would be really nice. I would really like to do that church-free.
For Dee Dowd, staying active is important.
I try to take the dog for a walk at least 2, maybe 3 times a day. I should really wear my helmet when I'm outside to be safer.
Rivers, come here. Come here. Here. Good girl.
I am scared to leave the house.
For Dee, simply walking the dog can become a nightmare. Because Dee has narcolepsy. Dee Dowd has fallen asleep while out walking his dog. But this isn't the first time. Dee's narcolepsy is so extreme, he can't participate in everyday activities without falling asleep.
I can't have a bath, can't drive anymore, can't really go shopping on my own, can't play games, go play cricket or football or whatever. I could never do any of that. I'd just go to kick the ball and fall over and fall asleep.
Dee is practically housebound.
To not know whether you can go out and come back again in one journey, it's really a worry. And you never know where you're going to fall down, you never know if you're going to get hurt, and you think to yourself you're going to get mugged.
Dee is totally dependent on his friend Karen Jones, who lives with him.
I rely on Karen 100% of the time.
It's time to wake up.
I need a shower. Just turn this on the shower.
I care for him a lot. I sort of give him a life, basically.
Karen likes to keep him busy.
It's good to do some chores and keep myself going, or else I'd literally sleep all day long.
Simple tasks can become extremely dangerous for narcoleptics.
I've broken my nose before, headbutting the floor, which is why it's a bit on to the side. I've really hurt myself quite a few times, actually. I went for a scan a little while ago and I've actually broken every rib bar one.
Narcolepsy is a central nervous system or neurological disorder that is due to loss of cells in a particular part of the brain called the hypothalamus. And as a result, people have these difficulties with daytime sleepiness. People with narcolepsy are excessively sleepy.
You'll probably find me in sleep mode 18 hours a day. I have hallucinations and they can be really frightening. When you have these dreams, you're getting sort of mutilated or chased or animals are eating you and all them kind of things. I just exist in two worlds really, and sometimes, quite often, I don't know which is the real world. As I wake up more and more and more, they can be passed over, but sometimes they actually last all day long.
Dee suffered from severe narcolepsy for 30 years before being diagnosed.
The average time from the onset of narcolepsy symptoms to a diagnosis of narcolepsy is about 10 years. And during that time, people may consider themselves or be considered by others to be either lazy or crazy.
Everyone thought I can be bothered. Attitude problem.
To make things worse, sleep is brought on by emotion, especially happiness and humor.
James, food in mouth.
Before my diagnosis, I was constantly trying to evade emotions. And even at work, I didn't make friends. I was really an outcast.
Dee's diagnosis explained that in addition to narcolepsy, he suffers from cataplexy, a related muscular condition. It's cataplexy that makes him fall over when he's awake.
Cataplexy, the emotion-related muscle weakness, means that they'll often avoid situations that are emotionally charged. So where most of us would go out to have fun, to have a laugh, that's the last situation that someone with cataplexy would want to be in, because it brings out their symptoms. So they're seen as antisocial, and this may be a very stigmatising disorder.
Dee withdrew from the world. He felt alienated, shunned. But even in private, intimacy continues to be a problem for him.
I miss being able to have a relationship, and sexual relationships are just impossible for me. You go to kiss them and fall on top of them and headbutt them, it's not good. Flatten them on, lying on top of them if you're making love and they can't breathe, and all I can hear is my nose whistling.
Just knowing that he has a condition helps Dee to cope.
You do like looking at me, don't you, girl? You're the only girl that gives me kisses.
There is no cure for narcolepsy or cataplexy. The standard treatments are helpful. They help manage the disease, but they certainly don't cure it, and they're not as effective as we would like them to be.
Despite this, with Karen's constant care, Dee is beginning to venture out and build a social life. He's taking a day trip to London. Millions travel halfway around the world to visit the capital city every year. Although it's only half an hour away for Dee, it's almost out of reach.
I haven't been to these parts of London for about 30 years.
The excitement may prove too much for him, but I think he'll give it a good go.
Let's go have some fun.
Come then.
Dee may have been overconfident.
Dee's got very excited, and as you said, he's fallen asleep, so he's going to have a nap for 5-10 minutes.
It takes them half an hour just to get out of the station. First stop, Buckingham Palace.
The flag's our fault.
But Dee doesn't see very much.
I've had moments when I've fallen asleep crossing a road, for example. The cars just bid. They want to get on with their journey. They're not even worried that I might be having a heart attack. People quite often think that I've been on drugs or that I'm drunk, when I've not had anything at all.
When Dee does fall asleep in the street, hardly anybody ever comes up to ask if he's okay. They'll just walk past and give slight comments.
Through no fault of his own, he's treated as a pariah.
I have such a lonely life because of it, and mainly because of the lack of understanding from other people.
I can't stop smiling.
Dee is learning to live with his condition and accept who he is.
I am who I am, and narcolepsy and cataplexy is part of my personality.
Larry Bissonette is out of his comfort zone. He's shopping for a pair of trousers.
Bro, yeah. Yeah, good job. Oh, you got those on? Yeah. All one.
But Larry can't find a pair that fits.
What do you think of those?
Larry seems to be struggling with the simple task of buying clothes.
Larry!
He tries on every pair of trousers in his size.
Oh, is this a different pair? Yeah. Oh my God.
Pascal Cheng, Larry's aide, tries to make sense of the situation.
Larry says he is a man rigged for process, so I've got to do every step here. Even though I want to get out of here, I've got 6 pairs of pants to try on. I'm going to try every pair before I leave.
You don't want these?
Yeah.
These?
Yeah.
Pants.
Does that mean you want the pants now?
No, yeah.
Larry's brain has a unique process, and it's easily disrupted.
Overall, yeah.
Larry is autistic. His behavior is most extreme when he's out of his routine, adjusting to change or new surroundings.
Sometimes when his voice gets pretty loud, that can probably scare people. People just don't know how to interact with that. And probably they think that something is really wrong. Right?
People often interpret Larry's behavior as threatening and confronting. He's treated as a social outcast.
People with autism are discriminated against all the time as being seen as weird, mentally retarded, cold, uncaring, selfish, lacking empathy. It's not the adult with autism's choice. They are behaving 100% appropriately for how their brain works. Their behavior is normal for their brain, but the outside world doesn't understand that.
Autism is a developmental disorder, and it's characterized by issues in 3 areas. The first is social interaction. The second is the presence of repetitive behaviors or restricted interests. And the third is language.
Without language skills, Larry had a life of solitary confinement. Most assumed he was mentally retarded and had nothing to say. But then he discovered facilitated communication, assisted typing with a computerized voice. Suddenly, Larry was able to show he wasn't who people thought he was at all.
People too often look pitifully at a person like me, potentially a loser in terms of mixing socially in society because my behavior.
Larry was aware that he was treated as an outcast. Now he could show that he was largely the same as everybody else.
See, yes.
Larry's sister Sally believes it has transformed his life.
It was a rebirth for him when he started typing, because then he could get all his thoughts out and express himself. He was silent for over 30 years.
Many people with autism are nonverbal. They may communicate by pointing, pacing, walking over to what they want. Even if they are verbal, they don't pick up on social cues. Normally they don't pick up on other people's body language, facial expressions, so they can't connect to people. It's almost like they're in a country where people speak a foreign language that they don't understand.
For Larry, art is language. Through painting, he communicates complex ideas about autism and society.
My perspectives on art and this idea of eclecticism is what should be implanted in our mass. Cultural views of autism, we are all differently skilled.
Cut that out. The thing.
When Larry's doing his art, he might be saying a lot of things, and then all of a sudden there's this quiet, there's this real calmness.
Larry's art is his self-expression. Larry has been doing art since he's been probably 5-6 years old.
Larry was misunderstood, misdiagnosed, and locked up in an institution at 8 years old. He found refuge in art. It became a form of therapy for him.
They said he was severely mentally retarded. In another report, they would say he was schizophrenic. In another report, that he was clinically insane. Larry was physically abused when he was there. Larry has scars on him. He has gone through hell.
When Larry Bissonette was 20, his sister Sally rescued him from a mental institution. She has cared for her autistic brother ever since.
Larry's extremely independent. He helps me prepare a lot of meals. Larry is a working member of our family like the rest of us. And he's included in everything.
Oh, Larry ran a goulash over to us. Yay! Ran it again.
And Larry will never, ever, ever be without me.
Larry's lucky to live with his family. But across town, Tracy Thresher has chosen to go it alone. He moved out to be independent. Once a week, he returns for dinner and sometimes to stay overnight. Tracy's mother, Sue, welcomes him with open arms.
Hi, Tracy. Yeah. Good to see you. Who's that?
Mama.
Good to see you. Go ahead.
We got chicken tonight for dinner. How's that, guys?
For Sue, raising a child with autism was difficult.
As far as he was treated in this house, he was treated like any other child. He was very much loved. On the outside, he was treated very badly. I mean, he was made fun of horribly. That's why I didn't take him to very many functions, because I couldn't stand it. I couldn't stand somebody saying, look at that kid, he's a retard.
Doctors offered little help.
They just wanted me to put him in an institution and forget about him. And they were saying, he's never going to amount to anything. They diagnosed him like the first man on Earth, how a caveman would be.
Before he began to type, Tracy was a prisoner in his own body.
I was not able to let people know what I was thinking or feeling. I was alone, trapped in autistic madness. I was just looking to be understood.
Having a voice freed him.
There is the neurological differences with my body and movement and lack of speech, but on the inside I am the same as you, with wanting a life with purpose, love, freedom to make my own choices and live a normal life.
Tracy's craving for a normal life finds him seeking treatments like this. Music therapy. Rhythm helps develop his speech and movement, as well as helping to strengthen pathways between different parts of his brain.
One of the largest misconceptions about autism is that once you're diagnosed with autism, you're going to be that way the rest of your life. You're always going to be permanently, developmentally, severely impaired, and you'll never have a chance to have a normal life or a full life. People with autism can develop with proper treatment.
Tracy has defied his condition in another way. He's made a friend. Larry. They've teamed up to fight the misconceptions associated with autism.
I think the most common misunderstanding is that I am not social or that I can't have relationships. Our powerful, nice personalities complement each other. We're willing to try anything, Tracy. Both moves and floats based upon to new experiences.
Their friendship has inspired them to help others with autism.
So we could start with doing some introductions, because
Tracy is mentoring an autistic high school student in a disability advocates group.
I am happy to see my friends Green Mountain Self-Advocates.
It's the common misunderstanding that we are not thinking, people acting without any idea of what's going on around us and not wanting to get involved or jumping on the train of life.
I found my possession in what and it's just change the world to that
Larry and Tracy have toured the globe, spreading their message. They've even made a documentary about the experience that they're screening across America.
I want to take a chance to talk a little bit about why it means so much to me.
After the film, there's a Q&A session.
I was very angry person before planning. Now I walk the red carpet of life with autism. Lots of popularity and my film makes her lucky too.
I'm very proud of my brother. I'm very proud of Tracy. They are two men who have persevered through things that I don't know if I could have lived through.
So often misunderstood, these two friends challenge society's preconceived ideas about their condition.
Can you ask a psychologist not just Chachero I treat and not seeing the oxygen but me we Tracy